This is question 34 from the 2016 TSA paper, and in this question we're asked what is the best statement of the flaw in the argument. So let's look at the argument. It's got 4 sentences that I've arranged by reasons and conclusion. First, it says that genius either has to be innate in people or to do with their upbringing. And then it says it's hard to imagine how bringing someone up in a certain way will turn them into Mozart or Shakespeare or Einstein. So it's just saying it's hard to imagine how upbringing creates genius. And then they point out that Mozart wrote complex music as a child at the age of 5, and they say that's too early for the environment to have been the cause. And here, by environment, they mean the same as upbringing, so things apart from your innate qualities. And then the conclusion is the final statement. They say it must therefore, so we know this is a conclusion, therefore be that genius is wholly innate, 100% due to innate factors rather than upbringing. Okay, so let's think about where the flaw in this argument could come from. Let's look at the form of the conclusion. The conclusion says that genius is wholly innate. So it's not just saying genius is mostly innate or partly innate. It's quite a strong statement that there's nothing but nothing but innate causes for genius. And what does that mean you have to show? So this is the important part. What does that mean you have to show if you want to show this is true? You need to show that upbringing doesn't play any role at all in explaining genius, and upbringing can't play a role in any case of genius. Otherwise, it wouldn't be wholly innate. But what the reasons given in the argument actually show is just that upbringing doesn't explain Mozart, Shakespeare and Einstein, and in particular it doesn't fully explain their genius, and in particular the writer talked about Mozart. So say for instance, they can't see how upbringing would be enough to produce their genius. That's not the same as saying that upbringing can't play any role at all. You need to show more in that case. So it looks like a problem with this is that the conclusion is too strong, in that all that's been shown is that upbringing can't be enough to explain some cases of genius, and the writers instead concluded that upbringing can't explain any case of genius at all, and therefore genius has to be wholly innate. So let's look at the options and see if any of those expresses that flaw. Okay, so here I've copied in the sentences for the argument, and here are my options A to E. And now let's think about if any of them expresses the flaw that it's too quick to conclude that upbringing plays no role at all. Well, if we look at C, it says if upbringing isn't the whole explanation, that doesn't mean it's not a factor. And as we said, the reasons given don't rule out that possibility, so it looks like C is going to be the answer. It does undermine the argument given, because if upbringing could still be a factor, even though it's not the whole explanation, well, the reasons have only shown it's not the whole explanation, and so it could still be a factor, and therefore we don't know that genius is 100% innate. Let's quickly look at the other options. A says that the argument assumes genius is evident from an early age. Well, actually that's not something the writer assumes. They only say that Mozart's abilities were evident from an early age, but they don't make a general claim. B says it's not possible to answer questions about nature and nurture with certainty. Well, that's quite a strong claim, and it's very easy to see it's false. Like, some things are definitely not due to your environment, like things like eye colour in most people, and some things are definitely due to nurture, like the language you speak. So in some cases it's possible to answer questions with certainty, and whether or not this is one of them is a different question. D says the writer doesn't specify exactly what's meant by genius. Well, that's true, they don't. There's a couple of reasons this isn't the flaw, though. One is that that's too strong a demand to make. So writers can't always specify exactly what every term they use means. So that can't be the flaw. And another reason is, even if they did specify what genius means, this would still be a flaw. So that wouldn't fix the argument, and therefore it's not the flaw with the argument. And finally, E says the fact that something's hard to imagine doesn't mean it's not true. Well, that's a true principle, and the writer does seem to rely on it a bit in that they say it's hard to imagine how the upbringing of Mozart or Shakespeare or Einstein would have been enough. But they also have this other reason that in the case of Mozart, his development took place too early for it to be caused by the environment, and that reason isn't undermined by this principle. So this isn't the flaw with the argument, or the best statement of the flaw with the argument, as the question asked. And so our answer here is C.